Okay, doke. Right. Evening, everybody. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Another session as part of the series of stuff that we've been doing the past few weeks to try and keep everyone interested in the sport, coaches and players and team officials alike. A couple of things that I was just going to mention just before we move on to our guest tonight and more topics. Most of you that are on will know about the Friday Night Live sessions that we've been doing with different speakers and things every week. It's more just almost a plea from us to spread the word as much as you can, guys, to all the players, all the kids that are out there. The more people that we can get tuned into that, the better. I think you all know we're all in the same boat. When this comes back, and the rinks open again, we want to lose as few kids as possible. Ideally none. So it's something that we've all got to be really mindful of. The other thing is, over the next couple of weeks there'll be some extra stuff other than the Friday night things. Starting tonight, obviously with Tony, but so it might be a bit confusing, all the different meetings and that get sent out, but if you keep a track on them, some are for players, some are for coaches, some are for both, and there's plenty there. There's fitness sessions and skill sessions and all sorts of things coming up, which of course you guys are all welcome to join in with as well, along with the kids. I think it'll be good fun. So tonight we have we're lucky to have Tony Hand here, head coach at Murrayfield Racers and the GB programme national development coach, which a bit of a mouthful, but basically what it means is Tony's responsible for the coaching in the junior national teams, 16s, 18s and 20s, and the ladies programme. So he's got a good insight into what kind of things we're looking for and what we should be looking for the clubs to help develop and you guys as coaches to develop and players as we go on. So Tony's going to give us a wee bit of a rundown on the national programme and also a little bit about Scotland and things we can do as well. And then what we're going to do after is we're going to have a Q&A. For those that haven't been on any of the sessions before, the way we do the Q&As is we use the chat function. So if there's any questions that come up during the talk from Tony, and as the questions start rolling, pop them in the chat. And when it gets to that time, myself, Stephen and Martin King will take turns. We'll ask the questions on your behalf. So I think your names will all come up in the chat when you type it, but if you could put what club or that you're from as well, that'd be helpful. And we'll read out the questions and we'll go from there. And well, what better way to spend a Wednesday night, eh? Okay, so without further ado, I'll pass it over to Tony. Tony, the floor is yours.
Oh, thanks, Barry. Hi, everyone. I just want to thank Barry and Stephen for inviting me on. Obviously, just echoing what Barry said there, it's really important for, especially what we're going through right now, is for the coaches to keep abreast of what's going on. Is that milk you're drinking, Barry?
Not milk.
Keeping abreast of just what's going on. I think it's great that the Scottish are actually being actively or proactive trying to help the coaches and just keep them focused and educated whilst we're going on, because guys, as coaches, it doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter if you're NHL level or Pee-wee under 6 level. Everyone's always learning. Don't think that, again, I've been in enough seminars over the years, countless seminars in North America, Germany, Sweden, and the coaches everyone's always learning. And as I say, I've been coaching now for the best part of like 25 years. And I'm pretty sure everyone on this, I don't know who's on here, apart from I can see a few names up there. We're always learning. And it's always saying that if you're an expert, you've stopped learning. And that's why I think it's important to have these sort of meetings, and I know it's virtual. I always think it's better to sit around the table and you can have a discussion, but right now this is the best we've got. So it's obviously, I want to thank everybody for taking their time out of the day to come on and listen to me talk. I just want to give you a little bit, obviously, a little bit of myself. I don't know who's on this chat, but I'll just tell them a little bit of myself. I started playing when I was 9-year-old at Murrayfield Ice Rink. I'm now 53. So it's a long time. I was at 40, 44, that's that 43 years, 44 years past. Is that right? So I've been involved in hockey for the best part of 44 years. And how the times have changed since when I first started. When I first started, we could go in the Murrayfield, and I basically hang around the rink all day to get on the ice. I could go on the ice with any age group I wanted to. At any time. It doesn't matter if I was 10-year-old, I could go skating with a 30-year-old, because it wasn't as different as it is now, where you guys are sort of limited to the ice time you get. Obviously, you've got restrictions about who can play up and who can play down, and I do find it's difficult for you coaches if you're only getting a certain amount of ice time to sort of get all the knowledge you want across to the players when they're young. But obviously, you have to, obviously every situation is different, and you make the best of the situation you've got. I started playing senior hockey when I was first game. I was 14-year-old, and I was playing in a men's league. So it just shows you how times have changed. And amazing, what happened is that I was at Murrayfield, the Murrayfield Racers, who had a really strong team at the time, and I think a number of their players went away to China to play for the Great Britain national team, which left us sort of gaps in the roster. So myself, Lindsay Libble and Les Libble, we all got a shot to play, and it was fantastic. That's how it was, and it allowed me to sort of develop as a player. And to be honest, when I was at that age, I was sort of recognised as a goal scorer and a points maker, and I thought, well, this is what I need to do to be at the top level. I need to score goals, and it wasn't until I was about 18, I got drafted by Edmonton, and I went across to their training camp in Edmonton Oilers, and they'd already just won, I think, 5 Stanley Cups. And I was so far out, I thought, coming from Scotland, I go across here, I wouldn't be too bad. I'd be actually all right. I was so far out my depth as a player, not because I think offensively I could still play across there, but defensively I was how would you say, lagging well behind players at the same similar level to myself, who'd obviously been taught the defensive side of the game and how not to concede goals, what to do when you don't have the puck, and I hadn't learned that, because I always thought, well, as long as I can score goals, I'll be fine. But unfortunately, when you get to the top level, guys, and I know a lot of coaches on here that maybe just coaching younger kids, and maybe they're just coach, I don't know what age groups, 10-year-olds. Okay, we always say, right, okay, if they're scoring goals, it's fine. But when you moving on to the GB stuff, when you guys want your players to come to a national team, if it's Great Britain, Finland, Canada, wherever it is, they have to be good defensive players, because the offense, the way we look at it with the national team, we normally concede, and I'll be involved with the national team, either playing or coaching for the best part of another 20 years. And if you're only conceding like 2.5 goals a game, and you're needing to be scoring like 3. Sorry. If you're only scoring 2.5 goals a game on average, you have to not get scored. You have to let less than 2 goals a game and to win. So our players are always taught, again, like myself, the defensive side of the game is so important right now, rather than just worrying about the scoring. Because going back to when I was younger, because I was scoring, everyone just sort of left me alone, the coaches, because I thought, well, he's scoring, so that's all right. We're winning, again, 9-7, 9-6. But in reality, we were sort of I've used my own experience. I was kidding myself on as a player, because I wasn't that good defensively, and I could see that, and it was such an eye opener when I went to Edmonton, because not only that, they done fitness tests, and I don't think I actually seen them laughing at me, but I think probably in the background they were having a little, again, chuckle to themselves, because I was going in there, guys were doing they were doing the pull-ups, and they were bench pressing 275 pounds in reps. They were lifting unbelievable amount with their legs, I was going in there and again struggling to bench press 110 pounds and struggling to do 5 pull-ups, and I was only young because in Scotland I'd never had the opportunity to do that. I just thought, well, this is how it is. But I sort of learned as a player. When I came back the following year, I decided to totally commit to being a player that obviously could hopefully reach the top. So I went to the gym, I lifted, I cycled, I run, I done everything I could. So lucky enough, I got invited back the following year, and I actually done quite well the following year. So it took me a little while to obviously could realise that there was a situation where if I didn't actually do something as a player, then I was probably just going to be an average player and just obviously just play around. So I was fortunate if I got that ability, I got that sort of lesson from the coaches. This is for you to do well. This is the instructions the coaches gave me in Emden. Sorry, was for you to do well, you have to get in a way better shape. So I'd done that, and when I went back the following year, then luckily enough they invite me back, and I ended up doing okay there. So I was obviously I learned from that mistake, and this is where as coaches we're always trying to teach the players how to move forward. So anyway, so I'll move on. Just obviously that's a little bit about myself. I'm not one of these people who talk about myself, but I just think it's important that just to realise that again, even when we were younger, again, scoring goals, it wasn't like really the being in the days. It was a being and end all to score goals. But I think nowadays, as coaches, and Baz, you've been to the GB camps, and Stephen, you've been with the GB's program as well. Is that the amount of times we get sent players from teams, and I'll go into that in a minute. And we know they're good when they come to camps. We know they're good scorers. We know that, right? But we want to see how they do it when they go in a World Championships. How they're going to, because if they're not going to score goals, they have to do something else. And if it's letting goals in, there's sort of not really much good to the team. So that's where sort of I was as a player, and sort of moved on from there. So I'm just going about how we look at for myself as a player. Sorry, moving on from that, I went to coach. I coached from a player coach. I went to Dundee for a couple of years, then Edinburgh for a year or two. Then I think it was Belfast in the Elite League, which was a fantastic place to coach and play. And then I think it was like 12 years in Manchester, and then I've been back in Edinburgh for a few years as well as working with the national teams. So I've got the experience, obviously working with players at all age levels, from younger players to 40-year-old men, to NHL players, to players who have just come at the East Coast, or players who are just amateurs. So it's important to have a variety, obviously, knowledge when you're doing these things, because it can be a little bit specific to a certain area or a certain age group. And I think obviously it's important to have that experience, dealing with different players and different problems to be able to sort of figure how your team's going to play. So moving back away from there, I just want to talk about the GB camp a little bit. So I'll just move the page here. Okay, just sorry, I don't know how many Scottish coaches are on here, or coaches for whatever. Just when we have the GB camps, we ask the coaches to go, and obviously we've got the conference where we look at players all the time. They always have the England and Scottish coaches who ask for feedback. We ask the conference coaches, and also ask club coaches to sort of recommend players who would come to potentially make the national team for Great Britain. So we can the age groups we got, obviously prior to last year, I had the 16s and 18s and 20s age groups for Great Britain, and there was a lot of fantastic players there. But what we find was, players were coming, but they weren't sort of prepared to actually make the team, because they were sort of one-dimensional. And not all of them, a lot of them are one-dimensional players, where i.e. they were just defensemen who could defend. They couldn't rush the puck. They couldn't play the power play. So you got forwards, I keep going about this, where they could score goals, but once they scored a goal, they were not much use to the team. So what we're trying to look for now is players who can do again, can play through the lines, who can, the fourth line guy, like they do in the NHL, where it's changed days where the fourth line guy would then go up to the first line. I know that's a bit of a jump, but they have to be in a situation either through injury or basically competition for places that you want your young your players now in your fourth line to be pushing for places in the first and second line to give that competition. So obviously, guys, when we bring guys in at the day of the camp, I ask my coaches. I hope you guys are doing the same. It's just obviously this is a personal thing I do. Is I like the coaches when they come to, and it'd be like you guys coming to practice. I like the coaches to sort of meet with the players, obviously beforehand. Have a chat with them. Just tell them what the expectations are of that day and what we're looking for. Because you know what players are like. They get to the ice and they're nervous and they don't know what to do, and they're basically just bringing what they do at the club level maybe onto the ice at GB. So we like the players to be obviously well prepared. We like them to say, look, we're looking for guys who are out there with lots of energy. We're looking for guys who can obviously can stand out. We want to make it difficult for the coaches to make these decisions, and because it's such a priority playing for your national team, and it's such a feather in your cap. So what we actually look for when players coming on, and it's not in any particular order, but obviously, guys, skating is such a priority for us at World Championship level. You can get found out really quickly where, again, the guy, like you say, the guy might be a decent hockey player, but when you've got an Olympic-sized rink and you're up and down the ice continuously, and it's not just forward skating, it's pivoting, it's moving side to side, it's backwards. We look at obviously skating as a priority for the coaches. The coaches can, if someone comes on ice and they struggle to skate, to be honest with you, they'll probably get an X against his name quite quick. We also look at players who accelerate to pucks. I think we don't want guys where all we're doing is basically just mirroring another team in the defensive end. We want guys to shut the puck carrier down as quick as they can. Again, not just be in a situation that we do in Britain is a lot, if not all of them, but we do in a situation where we basically just mirror them around the defensive side and can sort of collapse into the middle of the ice. What we're trying to do is basically strip them with the puck as quick as possible, so we're spending less time in our defensive zone as possible. But you'd be surprised, guys, how many times that we get players down there and the still ain't got the stick in the puck. The stick's the opposite side of where it should be. There's things we're having to sort of teach them there that hopefully they'll learn as they go. So it's things like this that they have, for them to make the national team, they need to know these things. So we do can obviously give them that information before they go on ice. We also look at for guys who compete. And people think, well, just competing is just about, he'll run someone into the boards, but it's not. It's about guys who will compete. If it's a 50-50 battle, will they give up on it, or will they just will they go hard for it? Or if a guy, like you say, if the puck's 2 feet behind him, does he just skate away and let the drill finish, or does he stop and pick it up, or does he compete to get to the front of the net? Does he compete to get up and down the ice to back check? So it's things like that. It's compete level is all over the ice, and also as well, we like to see how they compete off ice. Like again, at the first on ice, again, at the first guys to help their teammates, the first guys to, again, when you're coming in the rink, the polite to the staff in the rink. It's a sort of, you get a factor for these people, because we're going to take them away for two weeks to World Championships level. And we're actually living together for 2 weeks, so you want to take good people with you. So it's a combination. So when I'm going to way off a little bit, I do got this habit of going off track a little bit. But when they come to the rink, just say for instance at Sheffield, we're always looking at them. We're seeing how they act around their teammates. We're seeing how they act, because it could be down to the stage that it's a 50-50 whether we're going to pick the guy, and it might be the fact that he was maybe late on he came on late on ice, or it could be the fact that he didn't show enough determination to get on there. So it's, again, that's a factor for us. And also, guys, we're looking for guys who are coachable, obviously, with skill sets. Obviously, when you're going wrong there, we want guys to be able to take the information in quick. We don't want guys it's taking them 20 minutes to figure something out. We want guys to take things on quick, so they've got that. But obviously, One of the other priorities is fitness, and fitness is really key for us. I've seen situations where I don't actually pick the team. I help the coaches if they want some feedback. I'll sit in the stands and I take notes, and I'll write a report on the players, and I'll give them an idea of what we're actually looking for. But as I say, we've had situations, and I don't know if Barry, you were involved in the team. I don't want to give the player's name away, but it was 50-50 whether he was going to make with him and another, I think it was another 2 players, because the coaches couldn't actually, what we were looking for that player at that role, they had a few players in at that sort of position. And it was actually, when we looked at overall his notes, looked at his fitness level, his fitness was #1 on the team. And basically, we just say, right, we're taking him, because he'd actually obviously made sacrifices as a player to make that difference for him as a player. And he wasn't overly, again, he wasn't the most overly skilled player, but we realised that when we come to World Championship, we could depend on him because he brought a different element to the game. And obviously that was basically the determination and compete level and the fitness level to do that. So, again, obviously, again, as a head coach of the national development program, I don't actually pick the team, but what I do is I help work with the coaches. Like obviously, we've got a lot of fantastic coaches with the national teams, and obviously their job is to have the final say of who we pick, and obviously we'll have total faith in what they do. But obviously, they would obviously, when they were picking the team, they would speak to their assistants. They would get them their feedback, and once they got their feedback, they picked the team. But as I say, it's a difficult job sometimes with the coaches because there's so many good players in Britain. But for them to get that benefit, they have to come ready and prepared, physically, mentally. But don't come thinking, well, and I keep going on about this, don't come thinking, well, if I score a few goals and I shoot top shelf and I score, it looks good. But what we're looking for is a player who's got, again, the overall package that, one, he's going to, obviously he's got the skill sets, but obviously he has to be smart defensively. So we're not having to score 5 or 6 goals to win a game. And that's basically where we are with the national team. Because obviously I'm giving you a sort of quick overview of it. It's probably going a lot more depth. I don't know how much time I've got, Stephen, with that. Where are we here?
You've got as long as you want, Tony.
Well, sorry, I'm probably rambling on there. If you have any questions in the meantime. So when we go away to the World Championships, again, we're there for like two weeks. I'm just sort of giving you an overview, Stephen. We go away for 2 weeks, and the players are prepared, and we have the games, and we have Baz does the video in between the periods. He'll come down with the videos, a laptop, and show the coaches what they need and what they're not, what we're looking at. And I think it's such an important tool. I don't know if I'm pretty sure a lot of coaches use it, but for us, for the national team, the video is huge for us, because the players, you know what players are like. They think, well, I don't make that mistake. It was somebody else who and it's not until you show them on video, you say, they understand that, look, this is where you need to do it. It's a great learning tool, for players. And when I was younger, and we never had that learning tool. We were like, unless we've seen something on grandstand on a Saturday afternoon, and I don't know if there's even any video recorders back then, I'm not very sure, but you know what I mean, it's such a great tool. So if you're using, again, the team at what level you're at, it's always nice to be able to sort of show the players that, again, this is what we're, a great play, this is what we're looking for, and this is maybe what we're not looking for. And if you can use these tools, even at club level, any level, it just gives players that mental picture to be able to say, when they go back on ice, to rectify the good or the bad that's happened on the ice that day, stuff. But I have to say, guys, I know a lot of coaches in Scotland, and you have got the answers here. Like, people, it's fine. It's all you can find lots of information out on video. I research a lot of plays. I go online. I try to learn, but you've got information here. You've got the information you need to do well here. It's just basically just tweaking it to what certain teams are, or what your association needs to be successful. Like for instance, at club level, I don't know if a lot of teams do that. They probably do, but I'd actually even do it again at national level. Is when you've got your club, is that have a meeting at the start of the year, with all the coaches and say, look, this is our goals for this year as a team. Like we do with the national team, we try and make them all play the same. We don't want a coach at the 16 saying, right, we're going to do this, and the 18s will do it different, and the 20s will do it different. We try and sort of have a bit of consistency around the teams. And I think at club level, if you've got consistency, it's easier for your players to jump the age groups. And maybe you do, a lot of teams do this, so excuse me if you're doing it. But it's important, I think, for consistency among the coaches. See, our goal is, look, our goal is this year is that we want to be a smart defensive kind of club. We want to be really good defensive, or we want to be a team that, again, we don't concede any less than 3 goals a game, or we want to be a team that we have the best goaltender and the best D, and basically our forwards are going to come back and have a theme to your have a sort of a picture of what your club wants to do this year. But I think if players, and I understand there is an element where there's fun there, and you've got young kids who want to play and they want to scrimmage. I understand that, but you also have to have that these players like to be structured, and if they're structured, it's easier for coaches to make them better players. And obviously my job is to try and make players better, and obviously in the meantime, and it's like with the national teams, they have to have fun. But as I say, try and structure it that your players they're not asking too many questions. They sort of understand it, because when they go through the club, we've got this ethos as a club, or we've got this goal as a club. This is what we're actually trying to do. And whatever your club has, it has consistency throughout the coaching methods that they're going to use through the players. Because you don't want one coach being your head coach being a coach in one way, and then the assistant coach giving different instructions. And as they move through the move through the age groups, it's quite easy for them to understand how to run it. But I think it's in Scotland you have the answers. You've got Stephen there and Barry. You've got a lot of, and obviously off the top of my head, they've got a lot of good coaches who can make it. You all guys will all make a difference to these players' lives. So it's important for you guys. I say, and you talk about player can just coaching. I get a bit sentimental. I just don't think it's just about coaching. I think when you're dealing with players, lives, and you're sort of molding them how they're going to be with in years to come. And I think with myself, and I'm not just saying because I've played hockey professionally over 1,500 games. I don't know how many games I've played professionally. Hockey players are normally pretty good people. Honestly, I can honestly, in a hand on my heart, I've met very few people who are away from the rink are not nice people. And I don't know if that's a testament about how they've been coached, or it's maybe their teammates over the years. They kind of had good teammates. I was fortunate enough; I had a lot of fantastic teammates. Very few ones I couldn't count on. They're obviously, like everyone else, there's going to be ones that you don't. But by and large, it was good to work with a lot of people who you enjoyed working with. And I've been in a fortunate position. I've been doing a job I've loved for a number of years, and hopefully long may continue. Obviously, once we get out of this COVID situation. So I think that's, Stephen, I think that's just for me in regards to, as you say, guys, you just tweak your teams depending on what you feel is comfortable for your situation. But as I say, let the kids have fun. But if they say that they want to be structured, they don't. There's no one. And if a player asks you, you don't. I want players to ask me questions. Because that way, if I don't, you should have the answer. But your players are going to ask you because they want confirmation of what they're doing. It might be because, again, I'll give you an example. When I first started coaching, I think it was 20. I was in Dundee actually, and I just came out of Ayr. I was playing in for Ayr Scottish Eagles, and I went to Dundee, and I couldn't understand. Like, I was telling players things to do, and they weren't not all they were doing it, but they were struggling to do it. And it was actually, it's always, even now I still reflect on it. There's a player there from Sweden, Martin Vita, who was a fantastic hockey player, and I sort of spoke to Martin. I said, Martin, what's happened here? The players are some of them are not listening, not taking on board. We're doing a forecheck or a power play. And it's going out of, they're all out of position. And he actually said, and it happened because Martin was a very smart hockey player, probably smarter than me. But he says players are not seen the game, how sometimes what some players like myself see, or players who have maybe played at a little bit higher level, they don't see it as quickly. So, and I sort of learn, like, I have to sort of adjust how I coach, because I'm going to have to look at through their eyes how they're going to be able to see these plays now. And it's sort of I learned, and I realised that, again, you don't want to be, obviously we've been hard on our players over the years, but you don't want to be too hard. You actually want to have, again, speaking to your players a lot. Don't be scared to actually have a bit of confirm, a little bit, 5 minutes with them, say how you feeling, what you're doing, because players are, again, they will shy away. Some players don't like confrontation. Some players they just don't want that, to speak, they're shy or whatever. But I think it's good to make an effort with the players. Going back at that, to the national teams players, coaches, I always ask the national team coaches when they see the players for the first time, even in the rink, they might be just standing in a huddle on their own, and just go across, say, how's your day been, what you've been up to, how'd you get here, did your mum and dad drive you? And it just sort of breaks ice and makes them feel that, there's no these big scary coaches coming to speak to them, or do anything. It's basically they're there to help them be better people. So that's just a sort of insight how I sort of coach. I know it's a quick, I don't know how long that went on. Was that half an hour? Bloody hell.
So you come up for breath now, Tony.
Sorry, I just sort of rattle on a bit, so I apologise. I just sort of rattle on, so I do apologise. So anyway, guys, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to ask. As I say, I'll answer them as honestly as I can, without.
Yeah, any questions, guys, just stick them in the chat box and we'll go through them all. Just while we're waiting on the first few questions coming in, Tony, I've got one for you. What, for the future of the GB programme, 16s, 18s, 20s, what's exciting you about the future of the GB programme, and what's concerning you?
Well, what's concerning us, Stephen, obviously, is the COVID situation. We've lost the best part of a year and a half. With the 18s, we'll have the 18s. I'm just using the 18s, the men, for example. We have the 18s men going away to the World Championships, and probably, I don't think anyone will have been to World Championships before. And it is, and I don't know if anyone's played at World Championships, but when you're 16, 17-year-old, it's quite daunting. There's no experience there, so we'll find that tough. For the 20s, we've got probably, I'm not very sure how many to watch out, but the coaches will have to make that decision. But we'll obviously have some experience of players who have played at a World Championship, because they will have moved through the 18s to the 20s, which will be, but lucky enough, we've got a database for the 18s and 20s, so we keep all the players. Again, I've got on file who we've invited, who we've got, who done well, who we wouldn't have back for whatever. But the 16s is going to be tough, because we're going to have to rely on coaches like yourself, and obviously the English coaches, because there was no conference last year for the coaches to actually go and see these players. So I've spoken to the Jamie, our head U16s coach. He's starting to compile a file now of players, but it is going to be a situation that we're going to have to invite. I've told them I'd rather invite more players than less, so we can have a look at them, because sorry, my phone's going to. We don't know again what players have been doing in the last year and a half, because obviously some players, we've got players, and a lot of players in North America, and a lot of them haven't even been they haven't been playing. So there's so much we've got to pick up on once we're out with this. But we're coming out of it. I think we're starting to plan now. In 6 months' time to start our camps and start moving forward. So we're going to come out with this. Going back to your question, what's the positive stuff? We have a lot of fantastic young players in the program. Obviously, the 16s we're going to have a good look at. But again, what we've seen over the last years with the 18s and 20s, again, we were really happy with a lot of the players we're looking at. We're going to have to look at the goaltenders. We're running short in goaltenders. It's something that we've been brought up at Gary Bryan, our head development coach for goaltending. He's brought that up. We've looked at stuff that if we don't do something in the next little while, again, we're going to run out of goaltenders in 5-6 years. When you look at obviously I'm using 5-6 years down the line, but when I'm looking, that's probably less than that, a lot less than that. But we look at the seniors national goalies. who would obviously Ben. I think Ben's obviously a fantastic goaltender. Ben, bound, but what's Ben? Is he 29, 30, 31? And I think we've got the other goalie. I get Jackson Whistle. I'm not very sure how Jackson was, and then they had Murdy. I think Murdy was about 30. So we're going to need players are going to move from the 20s to the seniors, hopefully. But we're going to need a lot of young, good goalies coming through at 13, 14-year-old to help our national team, and that's really one of our focuses is going forward is looking at the goaltenders. Hope that answers your question. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, cool, thank you. So the first question's in. It's from Alan. Who's been the favourite coach, your favourite coach you've played under or worked with, and why?
There's various coaches. It depends. Like I loved, when I was younger, my first coach was Alex Dampier, who Alex was a legend across here in Britain. He was fantastic. But Alex was probably one of the first Canadian players who came across as a player coach. And he was really taught me when I was younger kind of about the game and understanding the game, because you had these Canadians come across and everyone tried to kind of copy them. We tried to copy the way they skated. We tried to copy the way they played, and that's what, as a coach for Alex, he was again probably most influential coach as a player. There's a lot of coaches I've had over the years who have been fantastic, but in various ways. They've been good. I haven't really had a bad coach because, to be honest, a lot of players that they put. This is me talking a little bit, being a little bit older. They put a lot of pressure on coaches because maybe they're underperforming, so they start using excuses. Oh, the coach, or that's my players, or something else. But I've always been the situation that if I'm not performing, it's because maybe I was playing bad, or maybe I had something I have to change. So I think coaches, they do try and help, and I always tell players, if you've got a problem, if anything, can come and see me. Don't let it fester in the dressing room, or speak to the players, or can come and see me. So yeah, sorry, I've had a lot of good coaches. What was the other part of the question? Was it, do you say player?
No, it was just, sorry, I've dropped the chat. It was who's your favourite coach to play under or work with, and why?
And why? Because basically I was given a chance with Alex. That's probably why.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else?
I'll jump in, Lynchy. Tony, I've got two quick questions. Just one, you talked about we're going to need to develop some goalies for the GB national team, right? Do you talk to the Elite League about how do we get more British players into the Elite League? Because it's very difficult for British players to get into the Elite League, as everybody's kind of knows. But we're going to need to get guys into the Elite League, into the top level, to generate more development for the GB national programme. Are you actively talking to Elite League?
To be honest, that's when you say that. Yeah, you're right. They need more players in as many players as possible in the Elite League. And to be honest, it sounds a bit obviously selfish from my point of view, because obviously I like the British players to do well. But I'm sort of hoping, because of this. The Euro, us leaving the Euro, that there's going to be a lot less imports into the national team that they can actually bring in. So I think possibly that it might sort of give us open the gate for British players to have a better chance of playing in the Elite League, because I don't think there's going to be in years gone by. If you wanted a European, he could be here in 2 days, like without his passport. You could have him signed up. Obviously, that's not going to happen either, just through the logistics or the costs of doing it. So yeah, I think we have to have it. I think we have to have dialogue with the Elite League when it comes to how. I know they've done Elite League done a plan to have under 23 players on their team, but it was tough, because obviously the Elite League is a business, and they want it's a business-based results-based business. And they're going to go with obviously the strongest players. And when you've got a player, there's a bit of a jump between a young 19-year-old trying to make his Elite League debut, and then into like playing a player who's just come from the American League or the Swedish Elite League is 32-year-old. They're going to take a chance. Again, they're not going to risk their job or that on too many young players. I'm not saying coaches don't do it. I'm just saying it's a difficult decision for them as coaches. So hopefully, I'm hopeful with the Euro, us leaving the Euro, there won't be a position where the players will be a lot more accessible to Elite League, or younger players a lot more accessible to Elite League, that will develop them, because, like it or not, the Elite League, they are training like 4 times a week. They're getting a lot of ice time, even if it's not playing. They are getting a lot of ice time. But likewise, when we go away the national team, we do find this, that a lot of the players who are with the who play in the Elite League at national team level, because they haven't been playing like power play or penalty killing. Normally they wouldn't do that. I'm not saying all don't do it, so again, don't pigeonhole any one player. But it's difficult for them when we go to a national team to say, right, your job now is to play the power play, and he says, well, I've never done that most of the year. And I'll give you an example. Liam Kirk, who's probably a top, it was a toss prospect. Obviously, he's out the 20s, but Liam Kirk's a fantastic hockey player, and an unbelievable talent. But in the Elite League, he was, and when he came to World Championships for us, he was at that time our star player, and he was supposed to run the power play, but he'd never been on a power play for probably 7 months. So the difference between him doing that, and then it's little, as much as Liam had the talent to do it, it was difficult. It wasn't as straightforward as you thought, because he was playing a lot, way more ice than what he got, and he was running our power play for us. And as you say, luckily Liam done well. But we're fortunate enough. Again, it's not just, obviously I'm just using Liam for example. There were a lot of good British players who play on our national team, but I'm just using an example that we need these players playing at the Elite League, or again, if it's NHL and they're getting a lot of ice time and they're playing, but they have to play, because sitting on the bench for a season and coming to a World Championship at the end of the year and saying, well, again, we see it right away with national team players, where again they haven't had any experience, they've got not much fitness, and then they come away and try and play 5 games and I think it's 8 nights. I can see them fighting. That's even our best players. So that's the sort of insight to that.
Yeah. The second thing I'm going to ask Tony is, you know, you've got 2 hats really. You've got the GB hat, you've got a Murrayfield hat. So I want to find out, as a coaching group, a group of coaches in Scotland, what do you see in Scotland coaching Murrayfield in terms of the other team, the overall quality of the Scottish National League? What do we need to work on as junior coaches to make our players and our leagues better? Is there certain skills? Is there anything in particular?
What I would say now is for you, especially for your coaches, is right now, it depends what level you're talking about, Martin. Are you talking about the older players, the younger players?
Well, I'm looking to see your thoughts on what you see in the SNL. You're coaching in the SNL, so and by and large in the SNL, what are the weaknesses of the players? Because we can catch that at junior levels, you know, moving up through the ranks. We can fix these problems if we get the viewpoint of the kind of senior level coaches.
That was one of the points I was bringing up. I was going to bring up with Stephen. Again, we're going to arrange a meeting with the national team coaches just through Ice Hockey UK with the responsibilities I've got with there. We have to work with it. It's fine me saying, okay, we've got players in our team. I think ice time is a priority. We don't have nowhere near the ice time is what we need to be successful as a player. And if you want to be like when you go to, let's say for Canada, the schools, as you say, the schools are all bloody normally integrated with an ice rink. Like we don't have that here, so we have to find ways for the players, and it's probably a bit controversial for me because you guys say, "Oh, it would never happen." But so if you've got two teams in the same area or similar areas, and someone can get a youngster extra ice time from another team just to come to practice, I would let that. I would let that happen. But some players say, "Well, that's controversial because he plays in this team and this other team." If he's in the area and he wants to get, at the end of the day, you guys are wanting to make Scottish hockey as good as you can, and the only way they'll do that is making you guys get as much ice time as possible. And obviously, the coaching program is good, but obviously, like yourself, we can as many coaches as you can get to sort of buy into what the Scottish is trying to do, rather than doing it as each team individually. I would be doing it collectively as a sort of organisation. Say, like Stephen, bringing them into a meeting and say, look, Scotland, what are we trying to achieve? What's our goal? What's our goal as a country? Do we want to play like really kind of strong like defensive hockey? Do we want to be concentrating on our goaltenders? Do we want to be good forecheckers? Do we want to be whatever? But have an ethos that you're trying to achieve. But I think every team is different from. Like your team will play like if you go to Sweden, most teams will play similar to hockey. Everything's high tempo, fast speed. Again, they will be. They don't want to get scored on. They will do. They don't care if they win 1-0. But in Scotland, for example, if some guy scores 5 goals, you think, oh, that's fantastic. But really, when he comes to the highest level, he's not going to score 5 goals. So we have to sort of teach these kids that when they're younger, it's great. I love seeing guys score. I love talent, and I love players playing well, but I would be again giving you misinformation if I say when they come to the highest level, if they don't learn the full complement of how to play the game, they will find it tough to get that high level. And I think that's sometimes where elite league teams come from, where they get the player in, and the player has they only want to sort of, he's come in there maybe because he's been sorry for keep going on about this. Offensively, he might be fantastic, but they maybe just want him to go on there, and when he's got in elite league, he's probably going to be lucky to score 5 points a year. So they want to put him out there to be able to sort of hold off for 45 seconds to give the first line a break. And when they can't do that, they just say, right, back on the bench because you're not going to score goals. And then what happens is the player then loses confidence because he's not scoring, and then it's just a vicious circle where what ends up, and eventually the guy gets how would you say, he gets disenchanted by the game, and it's this, he loses his confidence, and it's like, and this it just kind of for there. So that's, sorry, I hope that answers your question there, Martin.
Yeah, I think so, Tony. I think there's got to be a leap of faith with the elite league at some point. You know, there's currently a 14 import quota. That, you know, look at what Denmark done. That Denmark slowly brought that down. I think how we do that, I don't know, but there's got to be a leap of faith at some point.
I would like to think, and obviously I can't speak for elite league. They have their own license to run ice hockey. What they have, how they see fit.
Yeah.
Or sorry, I shouldn't say that. Obviously, they've got restrictions, certain restrictions of what they can do. But I would like to think that, again, well, what's been on in the last year and a half year, that they maybe will take a leap of faith and have maybe their business model is have a look at it again and say, how do we implement a lot of British players into this? Because, like you say, the teams like Denmark and Norway, they're doing fantastic, just with a couple of, but it takes time. But with Denmark, just you mentioned it, and they had a plan, though, Martin. I think it was a 10-year plan. I can't remember, was it a 10-year plan? Was it a 10-year? They had a 10-year plan to get out of where they are. You won't do it. You won't do it in one season. It has to be a plan, and that's where you collectively, you guys have to come together.
Yeah, I know. It's you know, I think the problem is a disconnection between junior hockey and elite league hockey, Tony. I think that seems to be a problem. They are their own entity and they can do what they want, and nobody has control over them apart from themselves. And they've got this level of the idea that they can only generate a fan base and money through having 14 imports, which is not helping the British game.
Well, I don't. This is where years ago, and when I was in Sheffield, we were getting, I don't know how many imports we had, but we had a few. I can't remember what that was. It was 8 or 9 or whatever. We were getting 10,000 people. We went to because people want to see ice hockey. We went to Wembley many times with 3 imports, and they sold out 10,000 people. But I think it's changed. It's changed now. It's changed how we can more. The elite league is more of, it's a business. It's a business to they want to move into the CHL, into European hockey, and that is their decision to do that. But hopefully, as I say, what's happened over the last year and a half, they will maybe introduce a lot of British players to them. I'm pretty sure they will look at it. I would be surprised if they didn't look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Cheers, Martin.
We're starting to get a few questions in now from a few people, Tony. So the first one's from Scott Campbell. Hey, Scott. A difficult one to answer, but as a follow-up to Martin's question around SNL, the best players Scotland produces tend to leave the country to go down south. What can we do to keep them north of the border?
Oh, that's a difficult one, that one. It's a difficult one. Because what happens is players you obviously have to make it more attractive up here. but it is difficult because when you guys in the SNL, if they're practicing once a week, right? What you got a team like, I'm just using Swindon for examples. Swindon are probably as professional a team as probably some of the elite league teams. So what they're doing is they're offering the players probably a job. They're offering them somewhere to live. They're offering them an opportunity to be nice 5-6 times a week. And if I was a young player and I couldn't get into the elite league contract and I wanted to play hockey on a weekly kind of sort of semi or professional basis, of course you can't blame them for doing that. So I can't fault them for doing that. Scott's questions is a difficult one, and maybe that's something that we have as coaches, or have an interest in the Scottish hockey, is that we maybe have to sit around the table, later on in the year and say, look, how do we improve the level? Obviously, the youngsters have to be key to this, to moving out of this, because there's a lot of older players in the SNL. I mean, there's a lot of good players in the SNL, but there's a lot of older players who they play, but obviously they play for various reasons, and they could they do it because they obviously love the sport and they love to play. But obviously, you want a situation that you want to make it a bit more elitist. That it is tough to play in the SNL. You want to make it tough, and that way the best players come through. So, but I think we're going to have to start down the ladder at the 12, 14-year-olds. And get it from there. But I think that's more. I couldn't answer that in 2 minutes, that question, Scott. Hopefully, sorry about that.
Okay, next one's from Ted Hall. This could probably just be a quite simple yes or no answer. Will Edinburgh have an elite team again?
I don't know. Anything's possible. Like for us, I can only speak for. I'm one of the sort of directors at Murrayfield, and obviously we've got a board there, and I can only speak for myself. But we don't put anything out. But right now, we love where we are. We've had the SNL for us has been great, and obviously we were looking at moved that NHL. We're fortunate enough to do well there last year. And obviously you've got some strong teams in the like Solway and Dundee, and you had Kirkcaldy and North Ayr were playing better. So I think we have to obviously be in a situation that it's competitive. I don't want to. People, I'll say this is me putting my coach's hat on from racers. The players will tell you, I hate nothing. There's nothing worse than I hate blowing a team out. I don't like it. I would love the teams that the lower teams to be stronger. And if there's way, and I've told if we can help the lower teams be stronger, I'm all happy to listen. I'm not saying there's a lot we can do. We can give advice, but the whole point is to make the league more competitive.
Okay.
So I'm completely. I'm not very right now. We don't have any plans at the moment to do that. That's for sure. But I think right now we're just going to take stock of where we are after this.
Okay, Andy Brown had a question, but he's also just put something else in the chat to say, cancel my last question. Tony's pretty much answered it. So Dwayne Pascal has asked, when players come close to making the national team, is there feedback provided to the club coaches that could help them develop over the next year or coming years for that matter? Just wondering how we as club coaches could best support those players and the national programmes.
Well, Stephen, I can answer that. What's actually happened is that when I've arranged camps to start this summer for the national team, and we're going to invite obviously the Scottish coaches, the head Scottish coaches and the English, and to come and we're going to tell them exactly what we're obviously a little bit not. I just went obviously skirt around the edges for my presentation. What we're actually looking for in regards to players, what we need out of them, what they need to be doing to give them the best opportunity to make the national team. Because we want to make it difficult for the coaches. We don't make it easy for you guys the team to come in and say right before. And I can assure you, the team isn't picked like until we actually see them on ice, and that's why we get them down to these rinks to see how they compare with each other. So we need, like what was asked by Dwayne there, we do give feedback, but it's to the players how we can improve it. So it's maybe something I can take on board. That I have to is, do the coaches get the same feedback? What we're the same feedback as the players, because if a player, for instance, doesn't make the team, ask the coaches, say, the reason you didn't make the team is you need to work on this, you need to work on that, and you need to work on this. And this is what the coaches will give to the players who haven't made the team. I don't think they go to the coaches. I think it goes right to the players. So it's something we have to look at. I don't know about how that works with all the data protection and all that sort of stuff. So I have to look at that. But again, we're willing to work with obviously we speak to you guys. You pass the information on to the club coaches, and it works for there. But likewise, there's nothing hidden in our stuff. We're open to anything to help the players.
Okay, thank you. I see we've got Martin Grubb on the call. Spud is obviously everybody knows Spud's a GB coach. Spud, is there anything you want to chip in about the GB national programme for a couple of minutes?
I think Tony's covered a lot of it, Stephen. When you know, we played together growing up, when we've been on national teams together, I think the biggest difference is just the speed of the game and the intensity of that game. And you know, I think the hardest bit for us in Scotland, with obviously similar to Tony with two hats on, is that you've got, when you look at for our Solway programme, we know there's only a limited amount of really tough games where the kind of best are playing the best, or we're lucky that we've got a national programme running as that once a month in Dundee right now, because I think if not, we would struggle to get the best kids competing against the best kids, because when they come to us, like Tony said earlier, you know they're good players. We've seen them, we've had feedback on them, and it's these little details of being able to play at the highest level as much as possible that is going to make them better. And you know, I know when Martin King was asking earlier around the Elite League thing, and you know, that becomes difficult, I think, at a national level as well, where we've got the Elite League is obviously the pinnacle in our country, but then for our players, it may not be the best place for them to play. I think even the three Scottish Elite League teams will see that, where you've had so many good kids coming through, whether it be in Fife or in Dundee, and then they're going into that elite level and then they're sitting on the bench. And I think the hardest bit, and it probably ties into Scott Campbell's question, is how can we get something, whether it be that National League North into a northern type conference with Scottish teams, so that our kids can stay here, our young kids then have an opportunity to play at that level below and maybe tie into the Elite League, and then it helps both the Scotland programme and the GB programme. But you know, I think all the clubs do a great job in terms of their skill development. They're trying to get as much ice and as much games, and even at the beginning of this COVID situation, where I think you guys were the first to do it with the whole YouTube and getting that out there. And I think the more we can get them playing, and the more we can get them playing in tough situations, then the better it's going to be to try and get as many not only players but as many Scottish players for us as Scottish coaches into that next level of hockey.
Cheers, Spud. Next question's from David Bax. Is it Bax? I think it is. What has been done by GB or Scottish hockey to bring new kids into the game to grow the sport, as COVID could really hurt player numbers and interest in the sport for years to come?
It's just for me.
I think it's for everybody, really.
Oh, everybody.
Done by GB or Scottish hockey. So you want to kick off, Tony? Go ahead.
I think, to be honest, I've actually spoken with the Scottish regarding this, not just I wouldn't say in depth, but I think as a board or as coaches, a programme, we need to have, once we're out of this, we need to have a total reboot, getting players and players back into the sport and keeping players in the sport. Because as I think I spoke to you, Stephen, a while back, is that you're going to find that parents are going to find it something difficult, because a lot of the kids' equipment is, the skates have grown, the equipment's again, they've grown, the skates have stayed the same size. They're going to have to buy new skates, new helmets, maybe new stick sizes, new shorts, and it's cost a lot of money to do that. So, and that's why I was hoping, put my politician's head on, that maybe Scottish could get something from Sports Scotland to help, to not for the senior teams, not for the S&L teams. I'm talking about for the kids who are playing, and their mum and dads are driving them to the practice every week, and who have maybe grown that little bit over the last few years, or maybe whatever, that maybe the Scottish government could maybe give them some funding, and maybe the Scottish could do that. I know Scotland have tried, but I don't know what the situation is just now, if things have changed. But I think we have to have a sort of campaign as a group to keep people in the sport and encourage new ones in there, because I think that it's going to be a little bit tough once we come out. Regardless, just going back to put my GB hat on there, we need to, one of the reasons we're having a camp a little bit earlier on in the summer is to see who we've got and see who's still here. You might find players have decided to go to university, they might have went on a world tour. We need to find out. Again, they might have put on 4 stone, I don't know. So until we actually see these players in the ice rink, we'll get a better stock of where we are as a national programme. But yeah, we definitely need to do something. I don't think we can just sit back and expect it just to fall into place. We need to be proactive in getting new players and players who are still involved, keeping them there.
Tony, me, Barry and Stephen talk a lot, and I think we kind of see it as a 2-phase plan right now. I think the first phase of the plan is to save the game, save all the players that we've got, save all the teams, save all the kids, and bring all the kids back to hockey. After we've done that, we get back into the rinks. The next phase is to grow the game again, start moving forward and grow the game. But the first phase right now is to pull all the kids that we've got currently in Scottish hockey back into Scottish hockey.
Martin, they have to do something. As I said earlier on, the way to make it more attractive for people at the top level is to have games that are competitive for each team. I mean, we had. I know Martin was on the call there, but we had some great games against Martin's team in Solway last year, and it was, you could see the players were excited to do it. They were excited. When our guys get in the dressing room and Martin guys, you can see both teams want to win. And that's what you want. You don't want teams, for us to be successful, there can't be a total imbalance from top to bottom. And it might sound a bit like, again, I was just saying myself, not sound cocky, because we done pretty well last year. I don't mean it that way, but I want as me as a coach or my players to be tested. I mean, there's no competition, no tested. Players just get bad habits, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, they don't take it as serious as it should be. So when you're getting tested, it's a lot more, or creating competition. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. We need to can obviously have a look at how we're going to restructure this, and maybe they have to get everyone's heads together again later on, and again in a few months' time, and say, look, what's best going forward for Scotland? Because every year, again, you have to have a plan. You can't just say, right, this year we're going to do this, and the next year we're going to do that. We have to do it like, say, like 5 years. This is where we want to be in 5 years. Because you do it over a year, it takes a long time to develop into that.
Yeah, I think just to finish up on that question, David, I think from Scottish Hockey's point of view, obviously now we're breaking away from Ice Hockey UK and going to become our own separate entity again. The SIH board are trying really hard to create to forge a link with Sport Scotland, and I think that could definitely as a great start of moving in the right direction. Next question from Ross from the Lanarkshire Lightning. Tony, you had the opportunity to have a look at all the Scottish junior clubs over the recent camps and years. What's your general take on the standard? I take it Ross is talking about Scottish junior hockey. Where do you think we are from a standard point of view right now?
Well, there was a lot of good players. I've seen a lot of talented players, but also the camps I was doing, there was a lot. Some of them were younger ones who hadn't been as developed. So I'm just putting my charger in here, the phone here. 2 seconds, Stephen. But yeah, I was impressed with some of the teams. I really was, and how the players. They took it on board. They listened. There was some. I was actually commenting to some of the coaches when we were on the camps, and I say, again, how enthusiastic they were. And if you've got enthusiasm, it makes it a lot easier. But yeah, there was a lot of good players. But obviously, there was players that we had that were they were maybe just at the lower levels that maybe were just playing for fun. I think his job as a coach is obviously to have fun, but I also think it's to get the best out of the player with the ability or what the tools you've got. And I think I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you. Scott Campbell with another question. Now that unification,
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Okay. Now that unification isn't happening, do you think there would be a benefit to SIH as our governing body trying to work with the EIHA to try to get us a few more teams into the NIHL league?
You know what, Stephen, I've been saying this for years, and I think my Scotland will back me up, and I do go on calls and meetings with English. It's so important for England and Scotland to work together, because we're not that we're not, none of us are that big that we do it on our own. It's fine if you just want to go and play hockey and have a bit of fun and just play in the SNL. I don't mean SNL, but you know what I'm trying to say, just play it for fun and have a few recce teams and just bat the puck about the ice. But for us to be successful, we have to have a sort of plan working with the IHA, so in tandem, so we all know what each other's doing. Because there's no point, like for instance, I'll give you an example. You have Scotland in there, and Martin, again, he's in charge of the under-20s head coach. He does a fantastic job for them, and all confidence in the players he picks. But when he's picking players, say for Scotland, who are playing a totally different system to maybe how they play in England. And the players for Scotland are thinking, well, this guy scored 5 goals this game, and he beat 3 players and scored. But I keep reiterating about that. There's players in England like who maybe doesn't have the same talent, but maybe they've been defensively they're maybe a bit more acute to what we need for that programme, and vice versa. We have the players in Scotland who are good, but we have different systems of how we play. We don't really have an identity as a country. Every club plays different hockey. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm saying that, I don't know if there's a relationship between Scotland and England about like how we play. No one's going to turn you and say, right, you have to play this way. But we have to say, okay, everyone has to be, again, competent. Again, the skating has to be at a certain level. Their passing has to be at a certain level, or their playmaking has to be at a certain level. We have to have that sort of consistency throughout Great Britain, and including Ireland. And this, sorry, I've left Ireland out because they're absolutely part of our programme. But they have to have consistency throughout the programme to make it, again, a lot easier for the players to progress from one age group to other. I don't know if does that make sense to you, what I'm saying there? I don't know. Yeah. Aye. I speak it. Aye. Somebody speak a bit fast because being Scottish. Stuff. But I think it's important for to have consistency, and I really do. And we've already, I think I'd mentioned to you about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I can't remember when I spoke to you. I says when we have our camp in Sheffield at the start of the year, to start rebooting the national programme, we want to invite the coaches along to the programme to see what we're doing. So we don't want to go away and say, the coaches, it's important for you guys, because at the end of the day, you guys are producing the players for us. And if you guys aren't producing them, we're going to struggle. So we have to work with you. It's crazy for us not to be able to work with you guys. And I'll say this on the call now, any coaches, if you're working with a team and we've got a national programme, I'm happy if you're coming down to Sheffield or whatever, just come and watch the programme. Come and watch what we're doing, see what we're trying to achieve. It's quite, it's an open shop. It's not like we're trying to hide anything down there. Anyone's welcome to come along and learn. And because, as I say, we're all learning as coaches. None of us. I don't know who's on this call, but I know there's one person on this call is not going to learn something new.
Okay, the last question we've got in the chat is from Ewan King. I think he's referring to the GB programme. He's saying one positive to come out of this pandemic is the use of technologies such as Zoom to host meetings like this, which is great. With camp time being limited and a lot to get through, do you think we will see a shift to using technologies to stay in contact with players on a more regular basis, as well as run through traditional classroom sessions on systems, game plans, etc.?
Yeah, totally. You can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's Ian's totally right. I think I've already talked about this, or thought about this. What we need to be doing is obviously sending the coaches more videos of what we're doing, especially not so much for the British players, because we see them on a regular basis, but we've obviously got players who are playing abroad, and it's important for them to send videos back and get some feedback or whatever they're doing across here, because we get feedback. We've got a good scout across here, an Adian, who looks at our program across here, but it's important obviously for us to see videos. And likewise, what you were saying, especially like for goaltenders, they can send clips across and say, you can look at this, we need to be doing this X, Y, and Z, and this is where you're going wrong. And I think it's going to be using virtual, it possibly could be it's a lot easier rather than teams will find in the long run is developing their players, because I say you can send you in a video of your goalies. The goalie can look at it. Your goalie coach can look at it and say, yeah, this is what he's doing this wrong. This is what he needs to work on. And virtually, it's easy. And I think it could be me. I personally, it's a great tool, but also like to sit around the table and chat and discuss things. So we can actually look at people in a room. But I think as a coach, it could be a vital tool going forward. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Tony, and thanks everybody for all your questions. If we've not got any more, that's maybe a good question to wrap this up on. So, Tony, on behalf of everybody, thanks for giving up your time tonight for an hour and a half, hour and a quarter, hour and a half. Always great to have good hockey people come and talk to coaches within Scottish ice hockey. For those of you, thanks for attending. I hope you all got something out of it. Like Barry said at the start, remember we've got Friday Night Live on again in a couple of days' time. We've got a guest speaker who's Darrell Eason, who a lot of you will have heard of. For those of you that haven't, Darrell is always great value for entertainment. So please tune in on Friday night, and then keep checking the website and keep checking our social media outlets. There's going to be another announcement coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning about what we're doing next. And we've basically got 5 or 6 different things lined up over the next couple of weeks through Darrell Eason. We've got a thing on growth mindset coming on. We've got some online fitness classes for our players. We're also going to be having a chat with a couple of GB ladies, talking about women's hockey. So there's going to be a lot of things going on over the coming days and weeks. So, like Barry said at the start, please lend your support to it. Please keep sharing on your own social media platforms and things like that, and let's really try and drive out here that we're doing everything we can to keep our sport alive during this lockdown that we're in right now, and the uncertainty and not knowing when we're going to get started up again. So just to finish up, unless Barry or Martin have got anything to add before we go, Tony, thanks again, great to hear from you, and we'll speak to you soon.
No problem. Someone going to speak there? No, thanks for having me on, Stephen. I hope that, as I say, answer the questions. I know it's difficult because it's a short time frame, but I do appreciate you getting your time, and thanks for everyone taking the time and coming out and listening me ramble on a little bit.